The quiet rebellion of Sam Callahan. The moment Sam Callahan found a dead fish flopping in his toilet was the moment he knew the HOA had declared war. At first, he thought it was some backwoods prank or maybe a bizarre wildlife mishap. That theory died fast when he turned on the kitchen tap and nothing came out but a wheeze and a dusty clank. His cattle troughs were bone dry. His tomatoes sagged like they'd been hexed. Even the dogs were circling the bird bath like it was sacred treasure. Still rubbing sleep out of his eyes, Sam stepped outside in his half-tied boots, only to see a crisp envelope taped to his fence post like some kind of passive-aggressive trophy. The paper was watermarked with the Homeowners Association's emblem and printed in a cheerfully formal font that made his teeth grind. Water access suspended pending compliance with HOA green space regulations. Thank you for understanding. No warning. No discussion. No explanation. Just like that, they'd cut him off as though he were a rogue squatter in a community garden instead of the legal owner of 20 acres that had been in his family since 1957. He stormed down to the HOA office like a man possessed, the dust rising from his boots with every furious step. The building was empty except for the chemical tang of lemon polish and Karen Templeton's unmistakably smug perfume. Karen, self-crowned queen of the HOA, sat perched behind her oversized desk like she ran a national intelligence agency instead of a neighborhood board. Her yard boasted a koi pond, a fountain, and more water features than a mid-range hotel. When Sam asked what gave her the right to cut off his water, she gave him a saccharine smile and said, "You're still within HOA boundaries, and your yard is unkempt. The bylaws are very clear." He stared at her, caught between laughing and swearing. "And you personally came and measured my compliance with Section 3.4.2 of the Landscaping Covenant?" She didn't even flinch, just handed him a glossy brochure titled Landscaping Harmony for a Brighter Tomorrow. By the time he returned home, a more complete picture was forming. Karen had done this before, last year. She fined him for letting his rooster crow before 8 a.m., as if livestock obeyed alarm clocks. Before that, she tried to make him dismantle his antique windmill because it looked aggressive. But this was more than petty. Cutting off a rancher's water wasn't enforcement. It was sabotage, and Sam knew exactly why. Karen had been pushing to buy out the land adjacent to his for her dream community recreation annex. His land stood in her way, and she was counting on discomfort to make him sell. What she didn't count on was that Sam Callahan was just petty and just stubborn enough to build a workaround from solar panels and spite. He called his old friend Curtis, who owed him a favor from the winter of '99 when Sam pulled his truck out of a snowbank at midnight. These days, Curtis was an off-grid guru, installing solar water systems for preppers and ranchers alike. After hearing the story, Curtis just whistled and said, "Hell, Sam. Time to pull the sun out of the sky and shove it down their pipes." That very evening, they met in Sam's barn and sketched the plan on the back of a feed sack: solar-powered pump, underground lines, private irrigation, legal, off-grid, and entirely on Sam's deeded land. That night, with 2 beers and a headlamp, they started digging. Sam's barn became a covert ops base. Trench lines zigzagged under moonlight, and pipes were hidden beneath innocent-looking flower beds. Each drone pass by the HO was met with a smile and a wave from Sam, letting them believe they'd won. Meanwhile, he was building a system that would never again rely on their infrastructure or their politics. 2 days in, Karen rolled up in her golf cart, oversized sunglasses hiding her suspicion. She sniffed the air like she could detect insubordination. "Are you finally ready to cooperate?" she asked. Sam handed her a mock blueprint drawn in crayon, complete with a new birdbath and regulation shrubs. "For the harmony of nature and neighborhood," he said, deadpan. She nodded approvingly and drove off like she'd just defused a bomb. What she didn't know was that by the end of the week, his solar pump would be online, pulling fresh aquifer water straight to his barn. She didn't know that he'd checked the county records and discovered the HOA didn't even own the water rights. They leased them, and that lease was up for renewal soon. He'd already submitted a bid. The next morning, coffee in hand, Sam walked past rehydrated troughs and revived crops. The solar rig sat gleaming at the back of his land, humming beneath the sunrise. Every wire, every pipe was a quiet revolution. Karen had tried to break him. Instead, she'd taught him to build better. Curtis returned the next morning with a trailer full of parts and defiance. They installed panels in the far pasture, wired the pump, and connected it to a tank that could hold over 10,000 gallons. It ran silent. It ran clean. It ran legally. By the time Sam returned from finalizing his bid for the water lease, the system was live. That night, steak on the grill and mesquite in the air, He smiled for the first time in weeks. 3 days later, Karen came marching down his driveway again. "I hear there's construction happening," she said, scanning the horizon like a hawk. "That requires HOA approval." Sam nodded. "On common property, sure. But this is mine. It's still subject to community aesthetic standards," she snapped. Sam gestured toward a pasture filled only with blue sky and a few lazy cows. She changed tactics. "If you're willing to cooperate, we can reinstate your water privileges. Let us use your ranch for the spring festival. Think of it as reconciliation." Sam nodded. "Send it in writing." She left, triumphant. But Sam had already planned his next move. Curtis helped disguise the entire system. The tank overflow drained into decoy barrels that looked abandoned. On drone photos, it was nothing more than a modest backyard setup. A week later, Sam received the HOA's formal invitation to co-host the festival. He made a copy. Then, with his lawyer, he added a small clause. Any use of his property would be compensated at commercial rates. The HOA board approved it, clueless. 2 weeks later, the festival arrived. The HOA spared no expense: hay bales, store-bought pies, rental lights strung everywhere. And right in the center, Sam's land. Karen called it a symbol of unity. What she wanted was photo ops with livestock. The mayor arrived with a camera crew. Karen escorted him like royalty, giving rehearsed speeches. She didn't mention the water cutoff. She didn't mention the threats. She just smiled and took credit for the private agreement. Then the trouble started. The HOA restrooms went dry. The garden sprinklers didn't run. The smart systems were dead. A board member tried the refreshment tent sink, nothing. Karen flailed. Sam just stood at the fence, sipping tea. When the mayor asked if there was a backup source, Sam offered a quick educational tour. He walked the group behind the barn, revealing his humming solar pump. Fully legal, fully off-grid. No HOA input required. The mayor was impressed. The crowd asked questions. Karen sputtered. Someone asked if Sam would provide water for future events. He replied, "At market rate." On paper. Karen snapped. "This is sabotage." "No," Sam replied. "This is survival. You cut me off." I adapted. The mayor asked point-blank if Karen had shut off Sam's water without a hearing. She stammered. The crowd muttered. By evening, the festival lay in soggy ruins, overheated guests, dry flower beds, and a board president soaked in lemonade and humiliation. The fallout was swift. A teen had filmed the entire fiasco. It went viral. Complaints poured in. Karen scrambled, calling emergency meetings. She accused Sam of sabotage, but her accusations fell flat. Then she made a fatal mistake. She reported Sam's system to the county inspector. The inspector, a sharp-eyed woman named Lynn, confirmed Sam's setup was entirely legal. But while she was there, she noticed something strange. A hidden pipe routed from the HOA irrigation to Karen's home. It bypassed the meters entirely. A week later, state auditors arrived. They uncovered everything. Unauthorized water use, shady budgets, ghost landscaping companies, and a history of targeting certain residents. Karen's name was on every receipt. The HOA board imploded. The treasurer resigned. Karen was forced to step down. Her koi pond was drained. Her water line cut. Sam finalized his water lease that same week, secured for 10 years. He didn't hoard it. He offered water to neighbors at cost, no politics. Many accepted. The community began to shift. Trust moved from the board to the boots-on-the-ground man with the solar rig. The new interim president, Erlene, a retired school teacher with more sense than show, met with Sam, proposing a voluntary water program. Transparent costs. Resident managed. He agreed, on one condition: no politics. Just water. Months passed. The system expanded. Curtis helped. Kids learned pipe fittings. Old feuds dissolved into neighborly cooperation. Karen sold her house and moved away. Sam kept the original HOA letter, the one that cut off his water, folded in a drawer beside his aquifer lease. A reminder of where it all started. When the mayor visited again, this time with county officials, Sam gave a full tour. They asked about scaling the model. Sam said he'd help. At the final town meeting of summer, held under the cottonwood tree on his land, Sam gave a short speech. "I didn't build this to fight anyone," he said. "I built it because when they cut off your supply, you dig your own well." Later, Curtis clinked a beer bottle against Sam's glass and said, "To water wars and quiet victories." Sam smiled. The stars were bright that night, and beneath them, the land hummed, not with vengeance, but with peace.